What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? I'm excited to be here. Well, given this is my house, but I'm excited to be talking about football because that's what we do. I did a podcast yesterday with Colin, so you can find that on his YouTube channel. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. You guys know the drill. So I did not do anything on the 3 and Out podcast feed channel, but I'm excited to talk a little ball today because Sean Payton had some comments that I went, wow, he's not kidding. He loves this team. A lot of positive momentum. Kind of a little different vibe right now in Chicago. So we'll dive into those two teams, which Colin and I have talked a lot about the young quarterback. So I kind of want to piggyback of what we've been discussing. And then I was looking today on the DraftKings app. There's one team. I'm going to hit on betting on the divisional futures today. And I got 4 bets that I really like. One is one of my favorite bets on the board. So we'll do some of this leading up to the season. But I do want to hammer on some future bets as we kind of work our way into week 1. And today we will do some divisional winners. So I love to gamble. I saw a story today that talked about love to gamble. I mean, betting on yourself. This guy, we'll dive into it. This guy turned down a lot of money from Zuckerberg to run his AI operation. That was just an incredible eye-opener. It's like, Jesus, this is insane. But before we dive into any football, any Sean Payton, you know I got to tell you about my friends, my partners in the official ticketing app of this podcast. I'm not a big FOMO guy. I'm really not. But I saw something this weekend that gave me FOMO. Morgan Wallen is doing a little stadium tour, selling out left and right. He was in San Francisco actually San Jose, playing Levi's. Friday night, he walked out with Barry Bonds and Steve Young, and the place went nuts. You know, I think Barry's 61 and Steve's 63. They look fantastic. I don't know. I will die to look like they do in their 60s. But then Saturday, I was like, God, that's pretty cool. He walked out with George Kittle, who was slamming beers, and Trent Williams. So if you want to go see Morgan Wallen, he's on his big tour this offseason, or I guess this summer. It's not. Some people are in season if you're a baseball player. But if you want to go check that out, you can search by concert venue. You can search by artist. It does not get any easier. Obviously, football's right around the corner if you want to go to a college game, if you want to go to a pro game. There are some incredible early season college matchups. And if your team's playing in one of those games, you want to go to the game, search by the stadium, search by the team. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. You know, it's funny when you have a young son on the way, you start thinking about life a little bit differently. You start thinking like, what am I going to do to raise this child the right way? And you start thinking of all these different angles of like, how am I going to instill confidence? How am I going to give this young man the belief in himself to go take on the world, to go follow and chase your dreams? Because chasing your dreams and doing something big in life takes some confidence. Like it's hard to do things in life when you are young. And I'm talking in your teens, in your 20s, hell, in your 30s, without older people, accomplished people that you look up to, that believe in you. That is a very, very powerful thing. I know that just speaking from my own experience, I've been very lucky to have people believe in me throughout my life, starting with my parents, leading into my professional career, sitting here right now to have Colin Cowherd, who is, I would say, as big of a champion for myself and, you know, a guy that has, you know, been behind me and led the way that I couldn't pay. Like, I can't even quantify what that has meant to me personally, professionally, and I'm sure many people listening, right? No matter what industry you're in, people that kind of show you the way, that have done it, that have accomplished things that you want to accomplish, is a powerful thing because confidence as a young person can come and go. And it's very, very easy to lose. It's the older you get, the more experiences you have, the more things you've seen. It was harder to really rattle a 38-year-old Peyton Manning, a 41-year-old Tom Brady. Like Jeff Bezos, Phil Knight, some of these guys, they've seen some shit. So even a quote unquote bad business day, like pretty easy to kind of shrug your shoulders, dust yourself off, and come back swinging. Obviously, for those guys, a lot of cash. But you know what I mean. And when you're 23, 25, 28, like your life experiences, even if you've seen some shit, are nowhere near what a lot of people that are older than you. And Sean Payton is, one of the more accomplished coaches in the NFL. He's won a Super Bowl. He is widely considered one of the best offensive minds of his generation. And let's face it, he's kind of a no-nonsense, no bullshit guy. Now, he's a big talker, big bravado, kind of cocky, but I don't think he just throws out things if he does not believe them. And he had some comments today that made me go, whoa. One, just he's clearly a big believer in his team. He thinks they are going to be really good. Last year, they won 10 games. This year, they obviously have higher expectations, and definitely starts with him. And he said that I've coached 6 teams that I thought could win the Super Bowl. Some went to the championship games, some to the playoffs. This is my 7th team that I think has that. So he believes in his career that this Denver Bronco team is as good as some of those Saints teams. Obviously, one won a Super Bowl. He has countless others that got back to conference championship games and had a team that was just peppering playoff bursts on a yearly basis throughout the 2010s. So he knows what a really good team looks like. But you can't be a really good team. I don't care how good your defense is. And let's face it, Denver's defense is awesome. I don't care how good your offensive line is. Their offensive line is really good. Their skill positions, I think they feel a lot better about their skill group this year than they did last year, especially at running back. But you can't do it without a quarterback. And I think sometimes in the NFL, like we've seen a lot of stories, especially now that a lot of these player podcasts and, older players have voices and guys talk about their experiences and guys that have had really, really good careers. They say early on, like, I don't know if that offensive coordinator really loved me. I got drafted here, but the defensive scheme did not fit my skill set. And then the position coach turned on me. He didn't think I was any good. It was just weird vibes. It wasn't until I got to Coach X, it wasn't until I got to Organization Y that I thought, okay, these guys believe in me. I believe in myself, and we're off to the races, and I can thrive. Some people are lucky enough to go to a place, and that place and that coach are all in on that guy. The best example in recent, I would say, NFL history would be Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes couldn't have, written a script to get him to a place better than the Chiefs. And Andy Reid's belief in him, the organization's belief in him, and it's been perfect. And they've had borderline unprecedented success for like 6 years, right? At least, non-Patriots. But a lot of guys, go to places where it's like, yeah, the GM wanted me, the coach didn't, or the coach wanted me, but the organization's not a big believer. The owner's kind of on the fence. Happens all the time. Okay, you don't need to sink a 30-foot putt to score big this weekend. Just fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook and take your shot at the green, the kind with dollar signs. Whether you're a diehard golfer or just in for some Sunday drama, DraftKings has everything you need to make the round a little more exciting. Live bets, prop plays, odds boosts, and plenty more. You new to golf betting? It's really easy. You can take a guy to win outright. You can bet on guys to top 5, to top 10, to top 20. Got a couple names for you. Obviously, odds are subject to change. Tommy Fleetwood had some devastating heartache earlier in the season. Well, on this course in Memphis, you got to drive the ball straight, something Tommy does really well. You can get him at plus 2,200 to win. You get him at plus 360 to top 5 and plus 170 to top 10. Another name I like a lot. He was very good in this tournament last year. Victor Hovland. Remember, smaller fields, the playoff starting, no cuts. Victor Hovland plus 3,500 to win. I love Hovland in top 5 this weekend at plus 500. So take your swing at winning some dough this weekend. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN. JOHN. That's my name for new customers to get a bonus of $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. And here's the thing. Sean Payton, next year Drew Brees is Hall of Fame eligible. I got a newsflash. He's going to walk right into the Hall of Fame. He is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So Sean Payton's got a pretty good idea what a really good quarterback looks like. And Sean Payton said this to Charles Robinson of Yahoo that I went, damn, he doesn't like this guy. He freaking loves him. This is Sean Payton on Bo Nix. He's going to be one of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the NFL in the next 2 years.
That's what we're seeing right now. He doesn't take sacks. He's got an exceptional arm. He threw the longest ball of the season last year at 67 air yards against Cincinnati. He can run. He can throw it in funny body angles. Sean Payton's all in on this guy. He told you last year. I think there's a decent chance, and we'll never know because it's easy to do the exercise when you draft 10th or 15th or 20th to go, we would have taken this guy number one. He was our favorite player in the draft. That gets said a lot, and it's easy to say, it's easy to justify. We love this guy. He's one of our favorite players. But if I put the Denver Broncos last year at number one, I'm not saying it's a lock that Bo Nix goes number one, but I think there's a decent chance that Sean Payton, who gives zero fucks, and I also think it's easier, the older you get, as accomplished as you are, and let's face it, financially it helps. Like, he's got a lot of money in the bank right now. He's not worried about perception on the outside because we saw a couple years ago, he couldn't stand Russell Wilson. And it was easy for him to turn on him because that wasn't his guy. He definitely didn't sign him. And one thing that you see right there, and I heard Diana Rossini say this. She knows Sean really well. He hates when guys take sacks. Like that's not a pet peeve of him. That's like a deal breaker. He's out on you. We all know people that, like, if you do something to cross them, whether it's personally, whether it's our friend, whether it's someone we work with, like, you're done. You're dead to them, right? And some people, it's like, God, just take a deep breath. They're not that bad. Like, give them another chance. But some people, we all know these people. I'm not necessarily like this, but I know some people that are like this. I've definitely worked around some people that are like this. They just won't give you another chance. And it was clear early on in that season, Russell Wilson was dead to Sean Payton. And he was lucky. The owner had a lot of money, didn't care, and let him do whatever he wanted, and he punted. But now he's all in on this kid. And listen, this guy, like, for a long college career, saw some stuff. And he's got some scars and, just some, he's gone through a lot of adversity. Like, he's got a unique background and track record of adversity for a young player. I would say the same thing for Michael Penix. They aren't your typical, like, Caleb Williams. Basically, showed up to college. Everyone was on their knees saying, do you want a blower or you want a handy? And then for the next 3 years, he got unlimited money. No one could stop talking about him. And it's been a little hard for him. And you got Ben Johnson now saying, like, yeah, there's a lot going on here. He just said yesterday, our practice was so sloppy, I expect more at this point in time in camp. Ben Johnson a couple weeks ago said, I think like they're 3 or 4 days into camp, there really isn't a ton of carryover from what Caleb was asked to do from a play call standpoint or anything of that nature before. I mean, he's always been very comfortable as a shotgun quarterback going back to college and even last year. He's very comfortable in the 2-minute. He's very comfortable with tempo plays. And so now we're asking him to be a little more structured in terms of the play call. Sometimes there's multiple calls, There's shifts, there's motions, there's more going on mentally than probably there's ever been for him. And so at this point, this thing will start slowing down. And he's going to be able to catch up, and his physical ability will take him over from there. But right now, because mentally it is what it is, he's playing a little bit slower. And obviously there are a ton of clips with Caleb just being completely overwhelmed, whether it's in team drills or inaccurate. I don't know if Caleb's going to be a star. As of right now, I would bet against it. But I do know the power of confidence, and I know the power of belief. And just because you get pick number one, once you go through the season in which he did, and now you get the opposite of this coach coming in who's like, I know my shit works. Even if I got to change my offense a little bit to try to bring out some of your strengths that are different from Jared Goff, my offense is predicated getting rid of the football fast, reading the defense, and getting rid of the rock. I think there are some parallels with Ben Johnson's success in Detroit and the way Sean Payton likes to run his offense, even if I'm going to be open-minded and make some changes. Bo Nix is a lot different player than Drew Brees. You can use some running attributes of Bo into your playbook that you wouldn't have with Drew Brees, just like you can with Caleb Williams that you couldn't have with Jared Goff. But there are some non-negotiables. There are some fucking deal breakers. And that's holding onto the ball, taking sacks, and ruining the flow of the offense. You have to play within the play call. It's one thing Russell Wilson could never really do. The difference is, for like 4 or 5 years with Russell Wilson, he was one of the most incredible playmakers in the history of the NFL. And then as his athleticism kind of dipped, he clearly didn't want to take hits, and he wanted to dominate from within the pocket. He couldn't do it. And all these offensive coordinators started turning on the guy. So I think when you look at Sean Payton, it's easy to have confidence and belief. A lot of GMs and coaches do when they make the draft pick, but you eventually then got to play, right? And become a good player. And for them to believe in you, I have to see it. I'll never forget like the Brock Purdy experience where I knew like Trey Lance was done because the star players didn't believe in him. Trent Williams, Debo Samuel, Fred Warner, George Kittle. Yet when Brock came in, all those guys, all their chips were in the middle of the table. Was like, I'm telling you guys you guys don't understand how good this guy is. They were the ones saying it. Oftentimes coaches will say it because clearly like they need to instill this confidence. But when you hear it from the players, when you hear it from the team, especially a team full of like accomplished guys, like they're not bullshitting with you. You know, it's the thing with Justin Jefferson about J.J. McCarthy. He's like, yeah, he's got some work to do, which of course he does, has some work to do. But like sometimes work to do doesn't ever turn into a good player. And I said this to Colin yesterday because in the history of the league, if you have 4 first round quarterbacks or 5 first round quarterbacks, there's never been 6. We know the percentages of first round players that hit. It's around 50%. And when it comes to quarterbacks, obviously there was an awful year in 2021 where they all flopped except Trevor Lawrence, and that's still a work in progress. He's just a highly paid guy. But, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, they've all been on countless teams since. That is more of an outlier from a negative standpoint, but typically, like, not all these guys are going to the Pro Bowl. And Jaden Daniels is going to be good. Like C.J. Stroud had a down year. We all know he's good. Jaden Daniels, even if he doesn't have like an all-pro year, I think he's going to be a good player. Like he's not, that's not a whiff. Like he's going to be a good player in the NFL for a while. Bo Nix, this is real. Like it's not, now how good is he? Sean Payton, top 4 or 5 quarterback in the league? I don't know. But I know he's going to be good. Why? Because his head coach, where offense is his baby, on a team with a loaded fucking defense, and now clearly like a winning high-level culture, like it's going to work. I would say Mike Vrabel, Drake May, like kind of betting on that. Again, do I think he's going to be a top 7 quarterback? I wouldn't go that far, but I think he's going to be a solid player in the NFL. Some of these other guys are going to whiff. J.J. McCarthy, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix. I like Michael Penix the most out of the next 3 guys. Like I love Michael Penix in college, but like I just bet against Atlanta. I know we got Drake London tossing Raheem Morris in practice to the ground when he's trying to jam him at the line of scrimmage, but like it 50% hit. Like if Jaden and Bo are hits, you got to pick one of the next 4 guys, and I don't know. It gets a little iffy quick, but Sean Payton's belief, his confidence, he can't even fake it. Where Ben Johnson, and listen, he's a new coach. You come in, and the pressure, like sometimes in practice, there are certain things that happen in training camp that would mean nothing to me. You could tell me Travis Kelce dropped every pass. He had 12 targets in practice during group and team. You couldn't even write. If you wrote that as a headline, I'd be like, who cares? Joe Burrow threw 5 picks in practice. Who gives a shit, right? But there are stuff going on in practice, like when Ben Johnson is talking about it, and these videos come out, you're like, Jesus. And it's the opposite with Bo Nix in Denver. It also shows you, and listen, in fairness to Caleb, and who knows whether he would have been good or, some star regardless where he went, but it does matter where you go. Who's coaching you? It's like, remember those quotes in that book excerpt about Caleb and his dad? They wanted to go to Kevin O'Connell. They wanted to go to an offensive infrastructure and a guy that knew what he was doing. Instead, they got Eberflus. And now they got this guy that, I think hoping this works out. But if it doesn't, he'll pivot and he'll get another quarterback. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. Data brokers make profit off all of our data. Why? Because it's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy our private details. From identity theft to phishing details, the data brokers sell our name, our contact information, social security, home address, and information about our family members. I'm tired of it. I don't want to get text messages. I don't want to get any more phone calls. And as someone who has an active online presence, as I'm sure a lot of people do, we are very, very vulnerable. So take control of your own data and keep your private life by signing up for Delete Me. Now, at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting JOHN to 64000. The only way to get 20% off is to text John, JOHN, to 64000. That's 64,000. That's John to 64,000, 64000. Message and data rates apply. I did want to do some gambling. We haven't talked much about this upcoming season in terms of odds. Obviously, we'll talk about week one and definitely the college football week one. I've already looked at that slate. I'm pretty excited about 3 or 4 of the games. But I thought some future stuff, whether it's rookie of the year, defensive player of the year, MVP, over-unders, we'll get into. But today I was looking at this is why I love to gamble. I saw a story today that just excited me. We'll get into that after we do this. But it's like I love gambling so much. And I did this last year, and I was talked out of the Chargers. And, of course, they made the playoffs. You get them 4-1. Hell, the Broncos were like 8-1 to make the playoffs. So you can get some pretty tasty odds in August on teams if you like them either to make the playoffs or to win the division. And one team that I think is a lock, like sometimes you don't get good odds. Like for 20 years, the Patriots, you weren't getting good odds. The Chiefs play in the toughest division in football, and they're the only team out of the Ravens, Bills that have plus odds. But still, it's like the Chiefs win it every year. Their odds are plus 150 right now. The Ravens, I think, were like minus 200, and the Bills, who have won it like 6 straight years now, you got to bet like $330 to win 100. So it's like, yeah, I'm not betting on those. I do think the Houston Texans, who are clearly the best team in that division, who have won this division 2 years in a row with CJ and D'Amico as head coach and quarterback, they have a chance right there with Denver to have one of, if not the best defense in the NFL. You would think that offensively, they were clearly out of whack last year. The offensive line was terrible. The play calling was awful. That they can flip it around a little bit and just be much more cohesive, have more cohesion on offense, and just have a better ebb and flow to their play calling. Because as the season went on, you're watching like, what is Bobby Slowick doing? And what he was doing was getting ready to get fired, and that's what happened. But I think the Houston Texans at plus 110, like, there's a few locks, right? Especially in the AFC. Like the Chiefs, let's face it. I mean, it got a little harder last year, even though they won 15 games. They're going to have a year, and they might go on a 15-year run, right? Assuming Andy's healthy and can coach. They could have another 6-7 years of winning at a high level. One of those years, they might not win the division. It happened to the Patriots. The year Tom Brady got hurt, they still won 11 games. They lost the division. One year, you could win 12, and a team in your division wins 13. It could happen, right? To me, the Ravens, like, it's not crazy if everything went right for the Bengals and they had another incredible offensive year. Maybe they could win 12, assuming Trey comes back. Everything works right in the Steelers. The defense is unreal. You win 11, 12 games. Like, it's foreseeable. The Bills, like, no chance they don't win the that would be the biggest shocking probably in the league. Like, the Bills feel like a lock to win the division. I just look at the Houston Texans and I go, the Indianapolis Colts today put out that it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones at quarterback. Anytime you want to be a playoff team and you have to put 2 guys with or in the middle as your starting quarterback, I'm out. Now, you guys know where I stand. I think Daniel Jones is going to end up being the starting quarterback. But, at the end of the day, they'll probably both end up playing throughout the year. I think the Colts, got some issues. The Titans, who I actually think are going to be better because defensively that's pretty solid, their quarterback situation could not have been any worse last year. I mean, Will Levis knew that he was probably about to get cut and was like, oh, yeah, cut my shoulder, because who gets surgery right before training camp? Little weird situation there. But the Titans are going to be improved just because I actually think Cam Ward's going to be a pretty solid NFL player. But they're not sniffing the division championship. And the Jags are the Jags. Like, on paper, they don't look that terrible. Travis Hunter's playing both ways. Can Liam Cohen resurrect Trevor Lawrence? Defensively, they got some pieces on the defensive line. But I just don't see how the Texans don't win this division for a third time. Plus 110, love that. I would say, speaking of the Chiefs, I've bet against them just based on like, oh, this is the year. 2 years ago, the Ravens were going to beat them. The Niners in the playoffs. Last year, it's like, oh, this is the year the Bills take them down, right? And it hasn't happened. Right? Hell, then I take them in the Super Bowl and they get blown out. One of these years, I think the Chiefs are going to be good. but like you get the Broncos. Like I just think there's value here. Denver last year went 3-3 in the division. And if it wasn't for a blocked field goal, they would have beat the Chiefs and they would have gone 4-2. They went 6-2 at home, which obviously mile high. The elevation is a advantage for them. And they have an elite defense. As we know, the coach loves the quarterback. I just think there's value there at plus 300. And I think I'm going to put just a chunk of change on there. I'm not putting them on the same tier as the Houston Texans, who feel like a lock. But I do think there's value with the Denver Broncos, who we might look up by midseason. They're one of the best teams in the league. You guys know where I stand when it comes to the NFC North. I'm taking the Packers to win this division. I think, listen, Minnesota's roster is awesome. Their coaching staff's really good. We know nothing about their quarterback. And if it turns out he's just average at best, maybe a little bit below, that can derail a season. Like it impacts the way you call plays. And then if he's off, it puts so much pressure on the defense to be perfect. Never forget last year, early in the season when they came out the gates swinging, they were up like 28-0 before you'd even blink. I remember 2 of their first 3 games of the season were against the Texans and the 49ers, and they just beat the shit out of them. And Darnold's making these incredible throws. He hit this bomb against the Niners. I remember they killed the Texans. Like, God, how good is this team? But a huge reason was the quarterback, right? Because when your quarterback's making plays, everything builds off that. Their defense was humming. Now, roster-wise, they're better this year than they were last year, but their quarterback threw 35 touchdowns. The Bears, I don't even know if the head coach likes the quarterback. And then the Lions, I'm not overreacting to the Hall of Fame game. I know Coward thinks the coordinator changes, right? He judged the third stringers. But, like, they do have 2 pretty big coordinator changes. And Johnny Morton, for a guy that Dan Campbell loves and John Gruden loves and Sean Payton loves, why wasn't this guy a more dominant offensive coordinator throughout, the course of his career? This is a guy, it's not like he's 30 years old. I mean, this is a guy in his mid-50s. And then defensively, like losing Aaron Glenn is a real thing. He was easily one of the best defensive coordinators of the last 4 or 5 years. Like you would put him on a tier with like a Fangio, a Sala, a D'Amico Ryans, Mike McDonald. Like he was big time. And there's just going to be a drop-off. Most guys at defensive coordinator, to me, it's easier to find offensive coordinators, right? Not saying that every offensive coordinator is going to be good. We see a lot of guys flame out. But if you've studied long enough with the right people and just the instincts of calling plays, especially if you're a former quarterback or, former skill guy, it just kind of comes naturally to you. Defensively, it's twofold. One, you need the talent on that side of the ball. And 2, you have to be pretty smart. So you can't, it's not just, it's like, on offense, it's very cerebral. You don't have to be a super tough guy if you're an offensive coordinator. That's why we've seen some of these quarterbacks, like Andy Reid's an outlier. He's a former offensive lineman. Most guys are former quarterbacks. And I would say quarterbacks aren't like the toughest guy in the room. But defensively, you kind of got to be a tough motherfucker, right? But you also got to be really cerebral. Like, yeah, Vic Fangio, when you listen to him talk, like pretty old school, pretty gruff, but he's brilliant. And he knows his defense inside and out. So, like, is there going to be a drop-off on defense? They were winning games last year on defense with me and you playing linebacker and DB and defensive line. I don't know if there's a margin for error losing Aaron Glenn like that. So I just think there's a lot of question marks in the division that has a ton of talent. And Green Bay plus 250, like I'm taking. And then I think the best value in the entire league is this. Seattle at 5-1. I think sometimes the Rams are discussed like they're the Eagles or the Chiefs. They won 10 games last year. And listen, they played the Eagles better than any team in the playoffs. They had them on the ropes, and it felt like they were driving to win the game. I mean, technically, they literally were. And they were hot at the end of the season. But I think we talk about them like they're a 14-15 win team. One, currently, their quarterback is week to week with a back injury, and we're talking 3+ weeks now, and no end in sight. And if they got to play Jimmy Garoppolo, if they've been winning 10 games with the 37, 36, 38-year-old Matt Stafford, they're not winning 10 games with Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't care how much Sean McVay gasses them up. The 49ers, who I still think are pretty valuable, and they are the favorite to win the division, got a lot of question marks. One, they just had to cut a kicker today because they were in a kicking competition, but they needed the roster spot because they have so many injuries at training camp. Their team is not as deep as it was in years past. They had to let a lot of guys go. They're going to be very dependent on young rookies, which, listen, rookies can have a good game. Rookies can have a good month. But most rookies, even guys that go on to be Hall of Famers, don't have great rookie seasons. And then the Cardinals, like, I know they're getting a lot of like underground. They're like this hipster pick right now. It's like the Cardinals. I'm just not picking a team with Kyler Murray as their starting quarterback to win the division. The Seattle Seahawks went 10-7 last year. They had the same record as the Rams. They were the best play of Sam Darnold's career when he threw the game-winning touchdown against them in Seattle, from winning 11 and just winning the division. The thing that jumps out to me is they went 3-6 at home. They were not very good at home. Well, I would say, like, this Seattle team, there's going to be a lot of buzz coming into the season. I'd imagine at worst, they're going to be 4-4 at home. Honestly, they should win 5 or 6 games at home because of the schedule this year and the teams that the NFC West plays, the 2 South divisions. Pretty big advantage. They had an excellent draft. Sam Darnold, like, even if he's not the version that we saw in Minnesota, guy just chucking touchdowns to Justin Jefferson, throw 35 touchdowns, why can't he throw 27? Clint Kubiak's the offensive coordinator. They're going to run the Shanahan system. He already knows it. They got some good pieces on offense. I'm not saying this is I think the Texans are going to win the division. I think the Packers are going to win the division. I think Denver, there's just some value there. I wouldn't bet my life savings on it. I think this is by far the best value on the board and worth taking a flyer because I think there's just so many question marks. Arizona's just a yearly question mark. The 49ers, I mean, what are they going to look like by the time the season comes around from an injury standpoint? And the Rams' fucking quarterback can't even practice. It's not one of those like, hey, we're just giving him some rest. His back hurts. And he's already old. And let's face it, for a guy 30, 36, 37 years old, he's pretty weathered given how many hits he takes. And I love the guy. But if he's going to be missing games, like, I'm just not buying into them with Jimmy Garoppolo. And speaking of I love gambling, it's one of the greatest stories I've ever seen. Because the balls it would take and the belief in what you're doing it's second to none. And I'm a huge believer in betting on yourself. And, your gut and your instincts in life have to carry you sometimes in big decisions. I know some of you try to be very objective and break things down, just try to quantify everything. I'm a big instincts and gut guy. So I've made decisions before based on gut. I'm not saying it's always going to work, but to me, it tends to lead you in the right way. This AI, I can't even speak, artificial intelligence arms race is insane. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is paying people, stealing them from other companies and paying them like they're Luka or Giannis or Steph Curry. I mean, he's paying people hundreds of millions of dollars. People in their late 20s, early, mid-30s, like they're NBA players. He's giving them $250 million contracts. I saw this tweet today that just blew my mind, that Zuckerberg offered this guy to be the head CEO of this crew that he's built. $1.5 billion. He's trying to build the AI dream team, and he wanted this guy to be his lead dog. He offered Andrew Tulloch, an ex-Meta and top-tier talent, a 4-year contract that included salary, equity, bonuses that totaled around $1.5 billion. You know what Andrew said? He said no, because he owns 3.75% of his own AI startup, Thinking Machines. I mean, that's got like, some sci-fi movie written all over it. But if valuations keep bumping, the thought is that it's a potential $3+ billion payday for this guy. Here's the thing. Zuckerberg's offer, getting the no, he needs this to survive, this Andrew character, until his own company IPOs. And there's no guarantee. And listen, everyone in the finance world thinks this AI bubble is going to go on for a while, and it's not even a bubble. It's a real thing. I've known people in the alcohol industry that I had a buddy telling me a story like last year. It was actually at my wedding about some of these craft breweries that, years ago, within the last 5, 10, 15 years, were the apple of everyone's eye. And these big, Budweiser, Coors Light, or Miller Coors, like the big dogs, would pay 50, 80, 100, $200 million for these little guys, and they would sell out and they'd become really rich, and it was awesome. And then there was a line when beer wasn't selling at the same rate, and craft breweries weren't valued at the same way. And some people that turned down valuations of $75 million dollars thinking that within a year they would get $180 million dollars, a year came and they were told, we don't want to buy your business. And your business is now trending in the wrong way. And you got either going out of business written all over you or just kind of surviving on a yearly basis written all over you. So listen, I commend this cat. It takes balls, it takes stones to turn down. A lot of human beings over the course of their life will say no when it comes to money. It's like, hey, this new job, I'm making 125K. You're offering me 160K, but I got to move. I don't want to do it. Athletes do it. People do it all the time. But $1.5 billion to say no on the fact that your thing is going to hit. You talk about belief. You think Sean Payton believes in Bo Nix? This guy believes. I mean, he couldn't believe anymore because to turn down that type of money for your contract, it's not like tying my entire life. If in 4 years it even fails, I'm filthy rich. So you got to commend him for, I guess, having stones and a belief in his own company.